my God, it's time to learn.
Who's got their learning caps on?
Who's got the notebooks?
Are you wearing your little hat?
Who's got the compasses? Why am I so far over?
You ask yourself that question.
Olive's
Don't
ready.
ask me. Olive's ready to learn.
Look, she's in coconut mode.
Xandrew Bert's ready to learn. Suave Peanut's ready to learn.
Let's go.
Let's go. It's
happening
me
from
and
here
Julia today.
Yeah.
We never stream together.
No.
My wonderful towel's ready to learn.
I don't know how to work with Jacob.
We're going to have to figure it out as we go. Determine our vibe, discover it.
Yeah.
Negapole, hello.
Hello. Thanks for coming to this DrawClass.
And thanks for being a DrawClass tier patron.
Oh my goodness, thank you so much.
That means a lot to us. We hope you enjoy this course Julia has hand prepared for you.
As always, I went too hard on this, but not as hard as my business class, so don't worry.
You didn't make a full Ava themed presentation for this one?
I got kind of like a Golden Girls thing going on. You'll see it when we reveal it.
Yeah, should we reveal? Oh, I'm just seeing Suave Peanut said they got accepted to run Alan Wake 2 at SGDQ.
What the heck?
That's incredible.
That rules.
I'll be so excited to watch your run.
Yeah. When does that happen?
Yeah, in the summer, presumably.
And yeah, I didn't know if we had the month.
I don't know which month exactly, but...
That's super exciting. Congratulations.
Yeah, that freaking rules. Shall I reveal your presentation?
Reveal the presentation.
Scoop.
There it is. Look at that.
Drawing your own letters.
Drawing your own letters. Today, that's what we're going to be doing, is drawing your own letters. So as always with draw classes, I like to give some like things to think about before we apply it. Because it's just helpful to know what we have to work with.
So true.
So I wrote down a bunch of things. Should we get started or should I wait
Let's
a little
get
bit?
started. We already waited.
Cool.
The waiting is done. The learning is now.
The waiting is over. Okay. So as this says, I didn't make these letters, but I did make this. And if you have the Draw Something Dumb book, you'll recognize this font because I used it in the book.
That was Julia's handwritten font in that book.
That was the font that I made for that book. It was pretty cool. But I'll go through like how I made it and things like that. I mean, this was an easier font than anything because it was, my handwriting. I just tried to make it big and very legible. We'll get into it. Speaking of getting into it, let's talk about what we're getting into today. This is the breakdown of what we'll be doing in what order? Sorry, I thought I already spotted something I spelled wrong. My spelling, not great. My drawing, okay. Anyway, we'll be doing this like in order. So I'm excited to get into it because I like fonts. I don't have like a lot of thoughts about fonts, to be honest. I just like doing it because it's very rules oriented. But I'm not like a graphic designer or anything. So this is just like how I've thought of doing letters throughout my tenure of making letters. I did the lettering for Detective Season 2, that Celestial Spear logo.
Oh,
hand-drawn letters.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
This is an illustrator's perspective on lettering.
Exactly. So, the goal of a good font. Look at that.
The
like this
goal
font.
of a good font is to get as close to Comic Sans as possible.
Yeah.
Every font is trying to achieve the perfection that is Comic Sans.
Absolutely.
And some are better than others. Like this font you've used here is not very close to Comic Sans.
No, I did jokingly think about making this entire presentation in papyrus font.
Yeah, papyrus is that's the evil version of Comic Sans.
Yeah, the Avatar font as we know it.
As a font gets closer to papyrus, it becomes worse, and as it gets closer to Comic Sans, it becomes better.
Yeah. fonts are on a spectrum.
Yeah.
And it is good or bad. Anyway, my computer did not have Papyrus on it, so I could not use it, which is very sad. Anyway, the goal of a good font. Again, an illustrator's perspective on what a good font is. I think the number one goal of a good font is to effectively give information. So what does this mean? You have to make sure that your font, like if you're trying to apply it to what you're looking at, does not compete with your illustration, and it needs to be read quickly and effectively. I was thinking about posters, like poster design. If you have like an event poster, a lot of people are just going to be passing that real fast. Mm-hmm. So you want people to be able to glance at a thing, know what it is, stay if they want more information, but ultimately you want them to just be able to get all the information as quickly as possible. If there's too many words or the font is too hard to read, people will just like gloss over it and kind of zone out, and they won't make the effort to read it. So here's the font is good. The choices in it are bad. Bad choices all around on here, right?
It's bad no matter how you choose to interpret it.
Do die, which is kind of how I kept reading it, because it's like the two colors, everything else is white.
First thing you see is do die and then safely.
Yeah, do die safely.
Do die safely.
Yeah. And then you see
yeah.
And that's how I'm reading it. That's how my brain's reading it, right?
But then it's like, am I supposed to read it as don't drive safely? Because it also says don't drive safely. And it also says don't die safely.
I know. It's any which way you look at it, it's really bad. And I see that they were trying to do something like clever, but it's not clever if your main message does not get across.
Yeah.
Right? Like the clever bit is if you look at it again and you see something else and you're like, oh, that's really clever. Like you see the second aspect of it, right? But your first aspect needs to be the thing that hits first, right? You need like the main information. It needs to be legible. You need to get that information across. And then you can have the clever bit. A good font, like a stylized font, emphasizes a mood. So if you're making a poster or a book cover, you want to choose a font that's in the vibe. So like if you have like a fantasy piece, you might want like a kind of older styled, maybe dramatic font choice. Mm-hmm. Like it looks like it was made with a pen or, a brush or something, But again, you don't want to go so ornate that people can't read it, because again, your first goal is you need to convey that information easily.
Yeah.
Yeah. This, I can't read it. I mean, I can.
It says title, subtitle.
Yeah.
Author.
But if you're like, oh, you don't have Scrubby Zoom, that's right.
I can't have Scrubby Zoom because Photoshop doesn't work with my graphics card anymore.
I know. But like, if you were to be walking through Barnes & Noble and you see this book on the shelf, what does it say?
Yeah.
It kind of looks like it's saying Julie, actually, which is funny. And then this line just gets lost, right? And then there's no author information. Like the font choice kind of fits because it's like wispy and airy and things like that. This is just a lot. There's like, this is something, again, I'll go over later, but it's like too many choices were made for this font, right? Like the spacing between the A and call is kind of the same as these individual letters. So it kind of looks like call to
the sky.
Like these are clearly two separate words. But this is like, again, the same spacing. So you kind of just have like, it's like when you square something. It's kind of like that.
And when I just glance at it from far away, I just see call sky.
Yes. Yeah. And you're also going, a call to the sky.
Yeah.
Which is like awkward. And there's like this middle gradient, which they don't really need.
And this is unrelated, but the name Mark B. DeGeorge is
Mark
a
B.
really
DeGeorge.
funny name. It's like a sentence.
It is. Mark B. DeGeorge.
Mark B. DeGeorge.
Yeah. So it like kind of fits like this like stark military vibe again, but it's just like the choices they picked with this. Like it's going simpler would be better.
Yeah.
It's also italics. It's got this middle gradient. It's a lot. If you're talking about word bubbles, you want like people are going to be engaging with just a lot of words at once. It's like basically like reading a book just broken up by pictures, right? And so you want something that's very legible, and you want something that can help you emphasize a scene. And I think about this all the time because I read, if I can't find manga that I want to read on a legitimate site, I have to go to illegitimate sites to read it. And
That back alley manga.
we love and appreciate translators out here. But man, oh man, some of them I had to stop reading because it's real copy and paste from Google Translate.
Yeah.
So I have an example of this. Remember, I'm the one that's asking the questions. You just sit there and answer me. You better concentrate on answering. Don't say or do anything. It's just like, it's awkward, you know, like this font is good, but you have to like do something with it, right? So because you're having like an emotional or like you're having like a high energy, high impact scene, you have some weight in here. Like
Yeah, we
this
got
is like
the italics hitting.
and bold, but it's not like too much. It's not like every word is highlighted. They're being very choosy with where they use it, which I think is great, you know.
I do want to say I much prefer the left translation of the more you speak, the more you're going to die.
Going to lie.
Oh, going to lie. Damn
Yeah.
it. I thought it's the more you speak, the more you're going to die. And I was like,
that's really good.
that's a hard ass line.
That is a hard ass line, but
But it's not even the line.
no. So yeah, again, very legible. It conveys emotion because, you know, you want to basically back up the image that they're displaying. So, you know, it's very tense. There's a lot of physicality in it. You get that like emphasis coming out in the voice.
Yeah.
Legible via size. So if you have to like think about the context with which your font is going to be read. So is it going to be a poster that people are going to be walking by? You probably want it to be big and very legible. Is it going to be small? Then your font has to be legible at a smaller size. So, yeah, if you want to test this, if you're on your computer, you can zoom out and see if you can read it small. This I just can't read. I can't read it. It's cool. I can't read it when it's small. But also, on this computer, it's a little. No, I don't know what this says. Is that rainbow? Rainbow?
It's got to be rainbow.
Okay.
The way I see it, if you want the rainbow, you
gotta put up
with the rain.
With the rain, Dolly Parton.
Dolly Parton.
It does look like it says Dolly Paston. Dolly Paston.
I thought it said Harry Potter at first, and I was like, I don't think you said that.
No. Harry doesn't say anything of notability. Yeah, so you just have to think about this. Like, it probably looks great when it's hanging up in your house and it's like close to where people are going to be hanging out. But like, if it's something that people pass, they're going to be like, "Is this thing?"
So like legibility.
Yeah.
That's like first and foremost gotta be the thing. And then all little funny stuff cannot detract from that.
Right. Yeah. Because the purpose of putting those words is to convey information. So if you don't want that information to be conveyed effectively, then why have it there at all?
Yeah.
I'm going to go through some technical terms that we're going to be using when we start drawing some fonts. I'm not going to cover all of the terms because there's so many. There's like ones to talk about the curve between your serif and your stroke. There's ones to talk about like this curve. There's one. It's
Please
like,
don't talk about the curve between my serif and my stroke
okay.
on stream. That's very private. That's personal information.
Okay. I'll delete some slides then.
That's a really good one.
I was finding some fun ones. There's a lot of bad signs out there. Spacing. Spacing just talks about the spacing between individual letters. If they're too close, it'll be legible. Too far away, and it'll feel like they're slowing down when they read it. So, Oreo milkshake is finally here.
Supposedly, that's what it says.
Yeah.
It says Oreo milkshake is anally here very clearly to me.
That's true, yeah. That's, I think, we talk about that in a little bit. We talk about a thing called kerning, but we'll get to that. There you go.
Some examples.
The
spaced out look also it makes you uneasy now because it's used so often in like horror.
That's true, yeah.
Media. It's got like a very uneasy, disconcerting vibe.
Yeah, I should say that all of these terms that I'm bringing up and all of these like rules that I'm bringing up are things that like, it's basically like you have to know the rules to break them, sort of thing. So there's like a time and a place for all of these rule breaking. Like this reads very like computer to me, like 80s computer. Everything was like really tight. It's like Alien when you see Alien. This is also sci-fi-y. Sort of like a ticker tape, sort of like spacing out. But like you have to think about when you are reading it, how is it making you feel? Basically, it's like, here's what I mean about too far apart. See what I mean? It's like that's what the experience your reader is going to have. I wanted to talk about how to fix some of these things in Photoshop. If you don't have Photoshop, a lot of programs use similar looking symbols because Photoshop kind of like started the digital art landscape a little bit in a lot of ways and became like the model for a lot of other programs. It's kind of like how everyone uses the floppy disk for a save button, but no one uses a floppy disk anymore. It's just like it's going to start being ubiquitous. So when you're in Photoshop, if you open up your type tool and you click this button, I don't know where it's going to show up for Jacob. Mine is elsewhere. Okay, cool.
Unfortunately, people can't see that window because it's
oh, bummer.
I mean, you can turn on the Wacom capture and then people will be able to see it.
Oh.
Now if you do it.
Okay, well, I closed the characters button. Give me 1 second, everyone. There it is. So these are usually together. I had split it because I didn't realize that the
But you also need to move it just a little bit because it's behind the camera.
Yeah. I'm finishing my sentence. It's always together, character and paragraph. I had just moved character out of the way because I thought you guys could see it. So this is your character thing. It's like it's your text editor basically. So if you want to change the spacing between letters, you can click here and go left or right. You could just click and hold, and you see like If you go left and you're in the negative, that means that you're going to have tighter spaces. If you go to the right, you're going to have wider spaces. You're adding distance. While if you go to the left, you're subtracting distance between each letter. I'll just hide that for a second. Well, not like that. Okay. So, kerning. We talked about this briefly in the spacing thing because of the Oreo milkshake, but kerning is the individual space between two letters. And there is a difference between this and spacing. Spacing is the average space between each letter, so you can set everything to be 20, as an example, or 0 or something. But for some letters, they look, on certain fonts, they look awkward, super close together, or like the same spacing as everything else, so you need to adjust it. So, obviously, the kerning problem on this one is, I think we can all see it. Why am I forgetting everything?
I don't know.
I burnt out my brain today, this week, and I can't. My brain just cannot work anymore. Anyway, the issue is there because that's supposed to say click, but it don't.
No, it don't.
It don't. So what you need to do on this font, because this is probably like a negative 20 spacing between each letter, you need to go in and fix this kerning because this individual space is bad and you need to adjust it individually. So here's what I'm talking about with kerning on a regular font, right? The word average. So where kerning tends to be a problem is with letters with anything round or with an angle. So the word average is really good because there's several issues here. And you could probably see it immediately if you're really looking at it. It kind of looks like average or avera G.
Yeah, there's a weird spacing between the A and the G.
Yeah, so this spacing is weird because it's really far apart, because I feel like when we're reading, we're usually going across the middle. I feel like that's where we're glancing, right? So the spacing here is weird, the spacing here is weird, and then these two are touching. So you'll want to adjust the kerning on these. So the spacing here is the same for everyone, except for here, it's actually cheated. But because of how the letters are structured, there's a little awkwardness. So you have to go in and adjust manually what feels correct. So with the top giant average, I adjusted the kerning on that word with right there. Let's look at it's this button is to adjust the kerning. I have a tutorial on how to fix that in a second. But it's at negative 240.
That's very...
To fix that spacing.
That's very negative.
Yes.
A little too negative for me.
Also, I adjusted the spacing here. It's at negative 80. But everything feels better and cohesive, but not crowded. I didn't adjust the spacing between the R and the A because, again, since you have this slope of the A going away from the R and it's just 2 points kind of meeting, it feels better to have those be where they were at the top. So I feel like the top one feels the best to me rather than the bottom average. What do you think?
Yeah, the bottom one looks like it's too much space.
It looks like average.
Yeah.
As opposed to average. It just kind of flows better as a word. So again, to edit the kerning in Photoshop, you would put your cursor, you would click between the two letters, and you would Again, you would open this palette and you would slide this, the slider right here, or you would do the drop down. Someone had asked, negative because they are technically overlapping. Yeah. So like it's negative because I'm like the standard spacing is 0. Like always on every font, it's going to be set to 0. So it's negative because I'm trying to lessen that space. If I were to add space, it would be, in the positives. But since you're trying to tighten that up, you're getting into the negatives. I feel like I didn't replace this picture, but anyway, spacing. So the line spacing is the space between lines of text. So like spacing before was your space between letters. This one's your space between lines. So it's basically just to help people keep... Oh yeah, I just had a duplicate. All right. Here's 3 examples I came up with. See, this is too close and it kind of gets jumbled and your brain kind of scrambles for a second. And then when you're trying to read it, like look at it while it's smaller, it's like awkward, basically. And then this is with it too far apart, like your line spacing is too big. And it reads like different sentences, like they are not connected.
Yeah.
So I didn't make a slide of this, and I'm sorry. But in order to adjust line spacing, if you were to open this text palette, it's this. So you highlight all your text. And again, negative is to make it tighter. Positive is to make it, you're adding distance. You're taking away distance, making it tighter. You're adding distance, positives. Okay. And then really quickly, some quick terms with examples for it. So the serif, as you probably know from everyone who, looks at like a sans serif font, a serif refers to the little stroke at the end of letters, at a letter's main stroke. So when you're looking at these... Sorry, Jacob.
I mean, what do you think my life is like?
I keep trying to scrubby zoom. So the serif is this thing. See how this doesn't have like a little tail? This one does have a little tail. So that's what a serif refers to. Sans serif means it doesn't have that little tail. Cursive is a font that reflects like hand lettering where each letter is connected. So I don't think they teach cursive in school anymore, but it's,
It's there?
It's there. Display fonts are usually a little more chunky, a little bigger. It's like a large type font meant for posters. So it's very like flashy, basically. A swash. Swash. A swash is a very elaborate serif. And it has like a big tail like this A.
Sure
this
does.
is a swash.
It's fancy.
Isn't that cool? So that's a swash. And then the weight refers to the thickness of your letters. So for example, you have, I'm going to have to zoom in because the zoom is kind of awkward. Okay. It's just making everything look a little crunchy. Anyway, this is like a thin weight, this is a regular weight, and this is a bold weight. You probably see it like here, bold, italics. There's no thin, but you can see it here. Regular, italics, bold. Some fonts have a thin version, which is just like really small stroke on there. Oh, that's what I was going to say. This is a side thing. I didn't put this in here. But if you're using Photoshop specifically, Photoshop has a way that you can cheat bold. And it doesn't look that great, I'll say. a lot of the time. Let me see if I can come up with a quick example. This isn't super important, but I just want people to see. Oh no. I'm not going to show you.
I don't have all your fonts.
I'm not going to show you. Never mind.
There's just a button you click that makes it bold artificially.
Yeah, but it doesn't look...
But it doesn't look as good as if it had its own bold.
Yeah, it just kind of looks a little bloated.
Yeah.
So it doesn't look as clean, and it doesn't work within the rules of the font style. So it's a little awkward looking. But sometimes I use the bold because it's, I don't know, sometimes it's fine. Anyway, so picking a font style. Again, to me as an illustrator, these are what I think of as the priorities for choosing a font choice. Is legibility, being like, what is your font going to be on, and like where is that image going to be showing up? Again, are you doing like a book cover and you're going to be in like a store, or is it going to be like on, you know, people's Kindles or something? Like, are they going to be seeing it really small in a thumbnail? You have to think about how to like catch people's eye and be able to be legible, right? Because you want people to know the name of the thing that you are trying to get them to interact with. Is it on a poster? Is it like a really big poster? Are people going to be like walking very close to it? Then maybe you don't need something as big. Maybe you want one thing that's big so that people like look and it gets their attention, and then there's like smaller stuff, right? Mood, what's the vibe of your piece? Pick a font that goes with it. We talked about it earlier. Like if you have like a fantasy thing, you can choose something like older or whatever, you know, more ornate. Romantic things usually have cursive. Dystopian, it's usually like computer fonts or sans serif, and all strokes have the same weight, and it's military harsh.
Yeah.
Versatility, is your piece going to be both a poster and a book and on the Kindle? Is it going to be on all three of those? Then choose a very legible font. And I have some examples here. So I took a piece of mine from a speed draw. This font's really good because it's very versatile. It's very legible. But like some of it, I don't know, it's like a little boring. You could add some more flair, right?
Yeah. Doesn't really say anything.
Yeah.
Other than the title.
Yeah, it's like making the illustration do all the work, which is fine, but you know, it's best when they can kind of work together and like enhance each other. So I changed the font here. It's like, okay. Sorry, it's like showing up kind of weird.
That's because Photoshop won't work with my graphics card.
That's right. I'm sorry.
And so I don't use it anymore.
Yeah, I can see why. Like this font's really thin, so it doesn't work very well. So
it's
like if you're far away,
small.
You're like, Darth? Boop. So the mood. I like this font a lot, but you know, you have to use it very carefully. It does look like it says Galarial.
And you can't read his name at all.
No, Galarial, Gartenix. The H kind of looks like an N.
Looks like MX.
That's true. Yeah, it does look like MX. It's like...
Non-binary Garth Mix just dropped. Garth Mix.
Yeah, so it's like... I like it for the top one, maybe. Like, we could keep that, but then maybe we choose a different font style for the bottom. Same deal. This font focuses entirely on the vibe.
Clear gel.
does look like chlor gel. Yeah, it's not great. And then the bottom is just it's nothing. Look at it. Can't read it. Sorry, taking a water break. It's just like, it looks cool because it goes with like the flame motif, but it, doesn't really work for me. So again, scaling some of these things, it's not great. Whoops. Like that font that was very legible. I don't know. It's all right. Here's a different one. It's fine. Like, I like this. It's just like kind of boring.
Yeah. If it were me, I'd go fancy up top and
simple on bottom.
Basic for the author byline.
Yeah. Whoop. I talk about that here, basically. So, using font weights to your advantage. So, you should mix and match certain font weights. Again, font weights are like the thin, regular, bold. So, I was losing my mind at the end of this week. Here's my poster for event. Join us for a cool event. Blah, 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 blah. It's all legible. But it's not very interesting. It's all the same weight. Let's switch it up with some... Even like the slight... I just made two things bold.
Yeah.
And it already feels like two separate things. Here's the fun bit. Here's the information. Here's the fun bit that's supposed to get you in and get you closer to reading this poster. Now you have all the information.
Isn't one of those things too with people's brains where if you have things that are different, it draws the eye more than if everything is the same?
Yeah, absolutely.
So like if you have like a bold and then a thin, people are going to be like, because people like to see where something has changed.
Yeah.
That like draws your brain more than... That's
true. Yeah, variety definitely draws the eye a little bit. But then if you have too much variety, you just get confused.
Yeah, it becomes clutter and then you don't...
Yeah. So typically you don't want to change things too much. I talk about this later, I believe. But like if you're using font styles, you want like a very decorative... Or like you can use a decorative font, but then have like a simpler font. Or if you use the same font, you can try to keep it to like 2, maybe 3 weights at max. But you don't want things that are too similar. Like I talk about here, if you're mixing and matching font styles and weights, make sure that the font styles and the weights are different enough, because it probably took you, I don't know, like this probably feels awkward.
Yeah, it's not bold enough compared to the other font.
Yeah, it's just weight. Like, you kind of look at it and are like, I think like, it's bolder. Is that thicker? Yeah, like, I don't know.
A little bit.
Like, it kind of jumps out to me, but now I'm just feeling a little off, right? Okay. Some gentle rules with fonts. I'm trying to move through this as fast as we can so we can go through, some drawing of some fonts. But these are actually pretty important for... Like, this goes directly into drawing fonts. Like, you need to know these things. Consistency is key with a font. This font that I've been using is very consistent. So I use it as an example here. So if you remember from, like, elementary school, you have those, like, sheets of paper where it's, like, it has, like, the 3 lines, basically. Like, the midline, top line, bottom line.
I remember doing it.
Yep. And all fonts are based off of those 3 lines, basically. And plus some others for the curves and whatever. But at its core, it is these 3 lines. So this font stays, like the horizontal bar on the lowercase is so consistent. Every single one just touches this bar. This T is a little off, but not enough to, like, flag anything. Same with this F. But Again, everything with like a horizontal bar lands on this line. I think I forgot to make this. I meant to, but I did not. This, like lowercase letters that also have a horizontal bar or like something going on lower in it, like this A and this E, they'll usually land around the same space. Right? They'll usually land around the same.
Makes sense.
If you're to have a font that's like a little zanier, then you can play around with those a little bit more, but then your consistency there is that there is no consistency. Or your consistency is that it's consistently zany, basically.
Yeah.
So, yes, just think about your consistency. Some of the uppercase letters stick with this horizontal bar. It's the same horizontal bar as these. See, that line didn't move. It stays on a horizontal bar because it looks very nice, like next to each other. It looks very legible, very cohesive. So, but with some letters, it does deviate, but it usually doesn't deviate by itself. Like P's and R's are usually together because they have that same upper half shape. So they're usually, those measurements are usually together. Excuse you. Oh yeah, I did make a slide. Haha! I did it. This is what I was talking about earlier. When we're talking about line thickness with this one, again, very consistent. You usually want to stay pretty consistent. If you, I mean, with the exception of like old-fashioned fonts where it does deviate, you usually, like modern fonts, you usually have like the same width on their like line thickness. So their uppercase and their lowercase letters are usually the same line thickness. And if you take these and you rotate these like blue lines that I put, it's going to be the same for these upper letters. It's just, it's the same line thickness.
Same thickness all around.
Yeah. Some letter observations when you're making your own fonts are that B's are usually bottom heavy. So I took a B and I split this right where this like indent comes in, and I copied this, the upper part of the B, and I mirrored it down, and you can see like this is consistent top and bottom width. But B's got a slightly juicier booty.
Yeah, it's got to be grounded, right?
Exactly. So S's do the same thing as well. The top of the S is usually not the same width as the bottom of the S. You can even see it here. If you were to draw like a line, you can even see that this comes up more, stuff like that. So all letters are a little, they have some cheated measurements. The E, the horizontal bar in the E usually does not go to the same depth as the upper and lower bars. So when you're making that, just remember to keep the middle bar like a little in more. This is what we were talking about earlier.
Yeah.
Too many ornate fonts together kind of feels like too much. And you've definitely, this is like a more cohesive example than others I've seen, but some event posters are just like, we're trying to catch your eye, so everything is a zany font. Let's go. It's like word art.
I can't
soup.
read any of it.
Yeah, it's just like you get overwhelmed, right? Where if you're to have like one ornate font that draws you in, and then just very clear, very simple, very understated, lesser important information in a simpler font. So that's what we were talking about earlier.
I'm a genius.
I'm a genius. So, the font rune.
Who's ready to summon a font?
Who's ready to summon a font? And this is how I do it. There's a guy, Ian Ian Bernard, I think his name is, who makes a font rune that you can buy, and it's basically a template. And he shows you how he uses it. I think his name's Ian Bernard. His name is Ian something. Let me see if I can find it real fast.
Ian Bernard sounds like a guy who would have a font rune.
Yeah.
At least.
Ian Bernard. So Ian Bernard has one that you can buy for Photoshop or Procreate. He makes it for both. And it's very helpful. I haven't used it, but it is cool. I make my own based off of my priorities, and also because if I have too many lines, then it all becomes a mess for me mentally. So what I usually like to do is if there's a font that I'm trying to mimic, I will, or like, is close enough to the vibe I'm trying to do, I will study how the rules of that particular font. So I used Impact font because it's thick, legible, pretty consistent, very basic, right? So some letters, again, are cheated. So you have like the K hangs off, the H hangs off. I'm sure that the C, the D, the B, the P, I'm sure all of those hang off like a little bit.
Yeah.
But what I like to do is I try to get like a median or like an average width for all the letters. So I drew a box around like the E and the F. There you go. See? So I just measured that out, and then I split it in half both ways. And that has set where my horizontal bar is and where my vertical bar is. And the horizontal bar is more important than the horizontal bar is more important than the vertical bar, because that's going to determine where you put that, like, again, the horizontal bar on all your letters. But I like to put the vertical on there so that with curves, that's going to be your peak. And then it's going to go down from there, which I'll show you right here. So, like I said, all of these letters hang off a little bit, but they're like consistently hanging off, like the other letters, like the K and the H, right? It's like the same distance outside of the text.
Yeah, they always seem to be like just about a half.
Yeah.
Like the line is like half over.
Exactly. Like
where the right line splits the.
Yeah, exactly.
The
like
hangover.
Like this is pretty midpoint. This is
like
pretty
close
midpoint.
To it, at least.
Yeah, absolutely. So I like to, I chose this C because it feels like on this right side here, I went to go point and then I realized no one can see my hand. On this right side, it feels like they took the curve and they like stretched it out. So I took, if I'm trying to stay within the font rune, I'm doing like a non-stretched version. So these are like the consistent curves here. So using that font rune that we just made, let's draw our own. So I'm going to make something very simple for the first font, just so we can apply what we've learned. What's a color that's good and doesn't hurt my eyes, but also stands against the blue? This might do it.
Baby's first font.
Baby's first font. I usually turn off the line sensitivity so that my thing is consistent. I'm also using the pencil tool so you can see all this, like, aliasing. It's like really crisp.
Yeah.
I had gotten into that habit because Caldwell, on my first year of working for College Humor, said that it's easier to ink your comics with the pencil tool so that when you select on the inside, it's, and then you fill, you don't get that like
the aliasing. Yeah,
the aliasing where it's crispy. So that's why I started using the pencil tool.
He told me that too, but
you didn't do it.
Well, I just did a different.
Oh, okay.
I took Nathan's idea of
the expand select.
Yeah, selecting and then expanding so that I could keep using the brushes because I like them better.
Yeah. So let's start with something that's very easy. Let's start with T. So I'm going to go right down the middle. And then I'm going to go here. Let's bring that in a little bit. Actually, I want it to be a little thicker. And usually what you want to do is to make, is to be zoomed out of your piece so that you can see how it's looking. Because when you're in it and you're close, you're like, oh, that's really big. And then you get out and you're like, oh no.
It is not big enough, in fact.
It is not big enough. So I like that thickness for our first basic font, right?
Yeah.
Let's make this a straight line. So, oh no.
Oh, I'm sorry. Did you want a scrubby zoom?
You guys got me into the scrubby zoom, and now I can't, like, I have to go back to my old ways of not using scrubby zoom. So I like that thickness. Let's try it with horizontal bar, and I'm going to stay consistent like that font we've been looking at. Why? There we go. No. Why is your move tool not working?
I don't know. What's going on?
I don't know, man.
Let me see.
I think it's your graphics card issue.
No, this isn't normally a problem. But it is right now. Might have to just restart Photoshop.
Okay, you want to hit save on this file before we close Photoshop?
I want to do this.
Well, oh, okay, yeah, you're hiding the menus. Oh no. Would you use a low resolution canvas to make fonts? No, I mean, for a sketch, that might be a good idea, but like, since you're going to be blowing up your fonts, it'll be hard to scale unless you want to redraw them. That's a good question, though.
You probably want it to be
big.
Big or vector would probably actually be. Most people I've seen that work in fonts use Illustrator and make vector files.
I did not want to do that today.
I don't blame you, because you're making them typically for a specific illustration, not for like public consumption.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it depends on what you're trying to make them for. There we go.
Wow. That's silly. Okay. We're back. Thank you, Jacob. So, as we were saying, what I want is just that thickness, right? So I want to stay within the rune I've made to make a T. So I like that. I like how that looks.
Nice T.
Thank you.
That's the T, sis.
And if you're doing this traditionally, what you can do is you can make the rune on a piece of paper and use tracing paper over it. And then that way you can like move across and not have to like physically draw the rune each time. You can also use a light box. You can measure things, of course. So if you're drawing this traditionally, you can get out your ruler and then you can set like, the size. If you want like a 1/4 of an inch thickness, then just keep measuring that out.
Yeah, for error 9527 in chat, who said they're planning to work primarily in graphic design, then you will primarily be using Illustrator.
You will be using Illustrator for the most
because you'll want to be able to provide your clients with an infinitely scalable image.
I mean, you can export things in Photoshop as a vector, but it's not as easy to work in vectors in Photoshop as it is Illustrator. So I just copied that horizontal bar because I had copied the this bar and put it on a new layer, and that's what I made the horizontal bar there.
Look at that beautiful H.
H. So this font's going to be very legible.
Yeah.
Not that interesting.
Serif.
Yeah. Sans serif, not that interesting.
Sans style.
Sans serif, sans style. Exactly.
Sans undertale.
Damn. He's always involved, isn't he?
You doing an E?
I'm doing a E. E. Okay. Put all the horizontal bars on. One. And again, I'm just trying to do this one kind of quickly because it's just the example one.
You got to make that middle guy a little shorty.
Yep.
I learned this rule from you mere moments ago.
Yep. All right. So just using the lasso tool. We'll see. How does this look? That looks good. It's not too far in, but it still has that little space.
Yeah, it looks good to me.
Yeah. You don't need it to be that thick because the line weight itself is pretty thin. So, I mean,
if you wanted like a stylistic choice, you can.
Not on this font.
Not on this font. This font is sans style.
Yeah. No style in this one. So let's tackle C, which is going to be interesting because it's going to involve, I mean, if you want to make I'm about to teach a whole other thing. Okay, so if we're making the C, you can draw it. So we can, let me grab this vertical bar, copy it over, and this is going to be our base template, right, for the C. And we want it to follow this curve. I'm going to stay within the rune just so people can see how it looks. So I'm going to lower the opacity on the vertical bars. And again, this is just how I work. If you want to use this as a springboard and then make your own thing, perfect. So what I like to do is I like to measure basically through the width of the horizontal bar if I want that curve to stay consistent, because it's hard to like eyeball a curve very consistently. Then on a new line, I will pretty close. I will do that, and then I will copy it over. And then what I like to do is I take that horizontal bar that I got to measure that thickness down there. I will make it vertical. I will go up here. And that's where I need that line to hit. Again, if you were doing this traditionally, you could do the same thing, where you measure the thickness of your bar and you make that horizontal line there, and then you take that same measurement and make it vertical, and you can measure it like that. This is my quick, dirty way of doing this, right? You'll also probably use a compass if you're doing this traditionally. But this is how, again, I like to cheat. I'm a cheater, pumpkin eater. I hate to tell you. And then I will combine all of these.
Then I bet you're going to get a lot of use out of that little curve.
Exactly.
Just put it everywhere else.
Yep. So I'll just copy and paste it and flip it for consistency.
Error asked, would you copy segments from other letters you've made as a shortcut?
Absolutely.
Like taking the top of the C and using it for S.
So S is an interesting one, as I discovered when I was making the logo for the celestial spear. You know what? I'm going to open that logo file.
I was going to ask if you had included some of the
I didn't.
The work you had done.
It's really big. Do I even know? Is it this recovered file? I could show you my process for how I did this one. It is this one. Okay. This is my Celestial Spear file of the fonts that I made. Because I wanted it to have like a little bit of style to it.
This one is not sans style.
This is, yeah. It's just like a little bit. I wanted it to feel a little bit like a moving train. So I have this kind of like wheel, train wheel at the bottom. And I wanted this to feel like a star or something.
Yeah.
Shooting through the sky. A moon, stuff like that. I wanted to like unite all of those. So I will show you my original sketches, which were bad. That one's okay.
Yeah, I was gonna say, that's kind of cool, actually.
Yeah, it's like I loosely sketched it and then I worked from there and I worked out. And that was the original idea for the logo, was that I have this like train feeling, and then I had like, it's called a cow catcher. And then I wanted like something that felt like the wheels of a train plus like a shooting star. And then I wound up incorporating that a little more subtly. But you can see it like, it went through some stuff. So there's that. And then this was how I measured it out. I think I can, yeah. It's just the worst colors. Just the worst colors you can think of. So I had made for myself a top bar, a middle bar, and a lower bar. And I brought the top bar up so that I had a little bit more weight towards the top, and then like the chunky circles could have a little bit more space to play in. So all of these purple lines are the same purple line, copy and pasted again and again and again, and just like manipulated a little bit. Because again, I'm an illustrator, not a graphic designer, so I work from sketches first and I work out from there. So, all of the blue is the purple bar rotated, and then I like dug out chunks basically. But I made one chunk, like I made it here, and then I like copy and pasted it a lot so that I can keep that serif
consistency.
Yeah, I could keep that serif united. A united serif
will not fall.
Okay. Boop. Then I was like, I gotta like, I don't know, it's not really reading for me and I'm not really liking it. It's like a little too thin, so let's go thicker. And then I looked at the thicker and I was like, not so much. Like the spaces in here don't really read. Like the consistency of the line weight between the vertical bars and the horizontal bars were too much. So I started like playing around with that a little bit. So, oh yeah, I thought about like carving out a chunk. So you get that like older feeling, like pen and ink sort of thing. But I didn't like it, so I wound up not using it. And instead I wound up like redrawing it, rehashing it a little bit, cutting out shapes where I could. So that's why that like A has this like cut through. It's because I didn't like how that A looked. Well, you could see I was playing with like not having a horizontal bar that was the same consistency as this horizontal bar, because it was basically just one big chunk here. And I didn't like how it looked. It was too harsh. You can see it with the P and the R. It's like it has like the littlest window, and I didn't really like that. So I was trying to figure out how to get more space in there. So that's why I started playing around with like cutting out things. So you can see I cut that part out. But then like this didn't feel like it had a lot of movement. It just kind of felt like a vertical S. It didn't feel like it was skewed like the rest of them. Like the rest of them had so much action. And then the S was just kind of like, I'm here too. Wow, look at that cat.
She's listening too.
She's happy. But I was much happier with this than I was everything else that I was working with. So I started playing, and like this felt like it had too much space. And I didn't know if I wanted two fancy A's. So when you're working with like colors and things, sometimes you worry that like something isn't reading because it's in a weird color you're not going to use. But I always work in a non-final color because when you get to that final color, you can just see it for the color. You haven't been looking at it the whole time. So it's like new. It's like new input.
Yeah.
When you're looking at a piece for too long, it just like bleeds together in your brain after a bit. So then I started playing around with like having a cow catcher and a light, and I liked the shooting star. I wanted like this to read like a shooting star, so I had like this going up like this for a while, and I also wanted it to read like a train, but it was like too many things at once. This was the logo before I started messing with it again. I think that's not the one I wound up going with, is it? Oh, I guess it is. I played around with a lot of iterations. I skewed this S to have a little more attention. I didn't like it.
Then there's this.
Oh, I think what I had done too was that I had like in the very beginning I had used this as a base, and then I took the distort tool and I distorted it, and then I started carving chunks off, but I didn't like it at all. It was too thick, too weird. Yeah, so I can show you too. Where is... Sorry, it's been eons since I've looked at this file.
Okay, generally we expect to never look in these files ever again.
Yeah.
Once they have served their purpose.
That's very
their
true.
Divine purpose.
Yeah. I had started playing around with some of the letters. You can see it, this S. I had copied the top and the bottom, and then that's when I learned that it's different, like the weights are different. It's bulkier at the bottom. So I had redrawn it. I had kind of copied this part and then pasted it at the bottom, but I liked how this like, train wheel came in. I thought it was a cool way to break it up. And I wound up like not liking the skewed S, so I wound up making it like that, and I don't even know what that is. There's my breaking up of the A, because I felt like the distance was not... I didn't like this weird empty space. It felt too empty, so I wound up copying this A that I had drawn. I also tried to like make it have a flow, so it has this curve. So I had this is like, it was a solid color, then I did a mask, and then I added an inner stroke and then like an outer stroke to the whole font. That's just tidying up some edges because I wanted to cheat some of the lines. And then the C is just a crescent moon shape that I was rotating. What is this? What is this? Really just name and shame me. Oh, I was measuring the space on the S. So I drew like a semicircle. If you take the stroke off of the S, it like is here. This circle that I drew. It was just to get this shape around, and then I did the same down here, and then I wound up not liking it. You can see where it was, and then I wound up having to cheat it because that's how S's go. They're a little more bottom heavy. But yeah, that is my file for season 2's logo. Okay, but back to the other one.
Thick.
Okay. Sorry, I got like a million messages making sure they weren't anything urgent. So let's bring this back. Let's delete this.
Thick.
And this is like good and technically correct, but I would probably cheat the C a little bit to like, it's kind of like pointy a little bit, you know?
Yeah, just because of the way the shape came out.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not an exact shape since you drew it.
Yeah. So you can always go back and cheat your lines a little bit, but yeah.
Yeah, it's a good way to get consistency.
It's just a good way to like, I mean, it's the most basic font again, right?
Sometimes that's what you want.
Sometimes that's what you want. Our cat is a rollin'. I'm gonna draw a more like old fashioned sort of font in a moment, but I wanted to see if anyone had any questions before I continued.
We'll give them a moment.
Do you have brushes on here, Jacob? Like the...
I got some brushes on here.
Window.
What are you looking for?
Brushes. Do you have like the mega pack? Yeah.
I got the mega pack on here.
I want to use this just as an example. There it is. All right, I just wanted to show something for more ornate things. This...
We do have a question. Do you want the question now?
I'll do it right after I just explain this thought that's in my head.
Okay.
My brain is not working, so I have to
go ahead.
Keep on trucking. This chisel brush I really like because it mimics old fountain pens. If I use, especially with tilt. So I used to draw with this all the time, but it's basically, it's those pens that look like this. And then it's split down here. That's what those old pens looked like. So if you were to draw vertically on here, you would get a very thin line, but if you were to draw horizontally, you would get a very thick line. So that's like the basis for these pens. So when you're to do old, like that's why if I do like it just, you get some old,
like if you hold it at the same angle, you get consistent.
Yeah.
Consistently thick and thin. It looks like the people that hand letter grocery store signs.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like that style of thing.
You would probably go thinner. Anyway, I was just having that thought.
Yeah.
What's the question?
My wonderful towel said I was trying to do a traditional tattoo style font in Procreate, simple all caps and a flowing banner, and I was struggling to keep the letters consistent while still undulating with the banner.
That's a good question. So when you have a rune, if you're like practicing, what you can do is if you have, okay, because what I like are, obviously if you've seen my work, you've seen that I love old posters in the turn of the century, late 1800s, early 1900s, have a lot of like this, which I think I did for something in season 2 of Draw Detectives. I made some sort of so basically you want to, here's like the banner shape, right? I don't want to have the medieval notched whatever for once. So let's say that's my banner. How's that?
It's a nice looking banner.
Thanks, man. You know what? Let's make this smaller so it takes away less. Okay, so if this is your banner and you want to, put some letters in there, but obviously you don't want the letters to touch the top because then you could have some awkward tangents in there, especially with like a T. You don't want it to like touch there because then it can just be horrible to read. Gonna get rid of that. So there we go. So basically what you want to do, I'm gonna write the word cheese. So you want to leave some space for your letters to live. And if you're doing this traditionally, again, you can measure or you can freehand it, whatever you want. And again, I'm doing like this. I'm doing all these pretty quick, so they're not going to be exact, but I'll get them as close as I can. You can measure the space like here, here, and here, and make sure they're consistent, which on mine they are not. So with those guidelines in mind, these very basic ones, I'm going to lower the opacity on this. Maybe slap a piece of tracing paper over if you're doing this traditionally. Let's say we have cheese. Now, turn of the century posters like to have one big fancy letter and then everything else in the banner. So let's have like, let's do this very basically. Right. Try to keep them close enough in width. This H probably needs to go out more.
You could probably like put like a middle line through, right? Mm-hmm. And then like essentially make runes.
Yeah, exactly. Like
you can make like a bunch of individual runes.
I work backwards. So I like to sketch just to see what the spacing is. Like I'm trying to undo as much of like the more intensive work. I'm trying to do that as little as possible. So this is just to figure out spacing. So then with that rune, if I like the height of these, what if I want them actually like higher? If I want that middle line higher, erase these middle lines. Let's see how this looks. This is why we put the indent. I like how that looks. Let's say. Right?
Yeah.
Cheese!
Grommet.
I'm actually going to space these out more because I'm probably going to want one side of the letters to be thicker than another. Right. So I'm giving myself space with each of these letters. I'm going to go back to my rune. I'm going to say the horizontal bar following, the line that we drew for the banner. Vaguely. That's going to be our horizontal bar. Right? Then using this sketched out one that I did, let's just like figure out a letter size. Let's use the E because the E is like going to be pretty crucial. So this is
crucial E.
Well, there's just so many of them.
A critical E.
Critical E.
It all comes down to this.
So that's where my horizontal bar is, and that's essentially where my vertical line is. So I'm just tailoring it to the space, but I'm keeping it, again, consistent with... I have to turn off the smart snaps. Okay. So this root is still the same, so that's fine. Again, this root over here is the same, so it's fine if we cheat it. And then this root, we just cheat a little too. Let's move this over here. Now we know, because of how big of an S, or like how S's work, that's probably going to go outside of these boundaries a little bit, and that's fine. Let's, then there's the H. So we're looking at spacing here, keeping in mind that this S is going to be a little bigger, so we're going to need more space for it. But that's going to be the spacing between each letter. Okay. So now let's start drawing some letters. Let's not use red because that hurts the eyeballs. So let's do, dang it. Okay. Let's make like a thicker line for the H here, because we're trying to mimic that like pen and ink style. And, you know, again, this is the sketch, so there might be some changes here. I'm going to copy this. Get that E base.
Be consistent with that vertical thickness like you talked about earlier.
Because this Illustrator traditionally is going to be using the same size pen, probably, for the headline, which is cheese.
It also just looked good.
And then the horizontal line is just the thickness of the pencil I'm using. So going to the edges of that box that we drew earlier, the measurements. And that went in a little bit. There. So let's see how that looked. Or how that looks, rather.
Oh, that's looking sick.
It
does look good though.
Looks nice and clean.
Yeah.
And it's because like this banner, the way that I drew it, the lines are consistently the same thickness, and then we have that blocked in shadow area. So we have like a thick and a thin section. So we mimic that with the fonts as well. So it looks like it's, you know, working together.
Yeah.
Excuse me. Just taking a drink of water.
Take your sippies.
I'm taking my sippies. Stay hydrated. So I'm gonna put on my glove now, because we're getting down to business.
She's getting serious.
Oh. So the S's are interesting, especially when you're talking about like thinner and thicker lines. So the weight of the letters that we drew already, the H and the E, is that the weight's on the left. And that's going to be the same thing with the S. You know, it's thinner on the top and on the right, and that's what we're going to do with the S. So
the tissue just fell from somewhere. Where'd you have that?
Where don't I have that? This is a side track story. But Jacob and I went to go see my parents the other day, and it's a lot colder when my parents, well, not a lot colder, but it's colder where my parents live. And so Jacob had to borrow a jacket from my mom, and he put his hands in the pockets, and he went, "Ah, just like you, her pockets are full of tissues."
Yep, just tissues filling both pockets.
Yeah. Okay. So something that I like to do, because the horizontal bar, we made that a little bit higher in the measurement, is that I like to kind of put the weight the same way that it is for the rest of the letters. So like small top, big bottom, right? So I'm going to make that curve happen a little bit sooner. So it's going to cross there, and then that goes out a little too far for me. But I'm keeping the apex of the curves on that vertical bar.
Why'd you look at me when you said apex?
I thought it was cool.
Yes, it's a great word.
Yeah.
And you used it correctly. Is all good.
Yay. Okay. So I like, before we start adding more details to that and wasting our time. Where'd my rune go? I like the weight of that. I like where those curves sit. So now we're just going to add weight to the side. I think sometimes we might cheat the rule that we've been doing a little bit. Maybe.
Yeah, thicken that too. I would.
Thicken this.
If it was me, I would.
I'm gonna label this a little bit so I stop flashing through the layers. I think that looks pretty good.
Yeah, it looks pretty good.
Let's you want the slopes to be consistent. You know? We want it to be a gentle curve. Well, actually, I'm not going to taper those lines because the E's don't have like a serif.
That thinness, same thinness of the E's.
You want to go thinner
lines
because none of the other letters go thinner. Cheese.
Cheese. Cheese.
I think it's a good start.
This, I mean, is good enough as an example for what you can do.
Yeah, and then let's tackle that C.
The big C.
Yeah, this I might just like eyeball because it's gonna be a different character than the rest, I think. But it's going to stay vibe-wise the same. That looks like a G. I don't want a serif on there. Let's ease that a little bit.
Ease the cheese.
Ease the cheese, as they say. It's a French history lesson, actually. That's what we say. Bastille Day. Just to make it stand out a little bit.
Oh, yeah, that looks lovely.
Yeah. Now we might do something cute, like... How can we make it look more cheesy? No, that's going to start looking like letters. I was trying to give it like
kind of cute. That looks like cheese to me.
That looks like cheese to you?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh.
Jacob, we have to go out after this. Better wake up, boy.
I know, I'm literally in a sunbeam with a cat sleeping on my lap. You got me in my like maximum snooze position. That looks great though.
You like it?
Yeah. And you got room on that right side of the banner. You could put anything over there. Could say boys. It's Gromit. I mean Wallace.
I forgot what his whole...
Yeah, just a little character from memory from Julia.
That's pretty good though.
Eh.
All right, let's do boys.
As I recall, he's like mostly nose.
I'm gonna put these in a folder. From what I recall, he's mostly nose. You're right. Cheese, Gromit. Okay, I'm gonna draw boys now. So what I'm gonna do, and I'm going to have to do this a little weirdly because we're doing this digitally. So I'm going to... Well, I guess we want to go with the banner. So it actually doesn't really matter. We would probably want to go by the distance of the sides.
You want to go the distance.
I can go the distance.
And you want to go for speed.
This banner kind of sucks that I drew. It looks cool, but like... I do like... I guess if I cheat it like that. It'll be okay. It's just like if I put it further in here, it's going to look...
Just make the B really small.
Consistency, we say. Then it's no longer on the banner. It's existing in its own plane.
Yeah.
Anyway.
The banner's not real, Julia. It's a drawing.
What?
So you don't have to act like it's real. You don't have to treat it with the respect you would treat a real banner.
Now, because I want to use basically the same font, I'm going to steal it.
Give it a little horizontal flip.
Nah.
I would. Don't know why you wouldn't. Seems easier to adapt, doesn't it? Could skew it.
Could skew. Well, if I skew it too much, then we're going to mess with the shape of the font.
Not if you just use the skew tool, you won't. No, you gotta skew. Yeah, skew from that one. Yeah. Now you ain't gonna frick it up. Clearly, you're not a skew tool. Let me teach a class on the skew tool. This is move aside. It's skew tool time.
Okay. I'm gonna keep the spacing. I'm just eyeballing the... This is gonna be Cheese Boy. Cheese Boy.
Cheese Boy.
100% that.
My wonderful towel. Are you gonna get this Cheese Boy tattoo?
Yeah. Are you gonna make this?
Are you gonna make this get it tattooed?
Are you? Yeah.
Become the Cheese Boy?
Become Cheese Boy? Boy.
I can't believe you didn't reskew. If it were me,
Jacob.
If it were me on there,
Jacob, I
would
told you.
have skewed each one.
I told you I'd done burnt out. And my caring. It's a miracle I done showed up.
You would always show up for the patrons.
I would always show up for the patrons. Absolutely. That's why I'm here.
That's why you're here. If it wasn't the patrons, you wouldn't be here.
No. I'd be playing Dragon's Dogma and trying to figure out where that hot lady went to. Jeez, boy.
Julia plays every video game just trying to figure out where the hot lady went to.
I try to figure out who's the hot lady, and then I try to figure out where the hot lady went to.
Locate her, where she is absconded to.
Yes, exactly. Jeez, boy. Okay. We gotta mimic the thickness of the E. E.
You gonna go find that vertical line?
Yeah. I've just measured it by pixels here.
Oh, you wanted a scrubby zoom, did you? Well, so do I. This may explain your trouble with Balatro. You can't find the hot woman.
I'm so bad at Balatro.
Where is she?
I haven't won yet. I haven't won a single game of Balatro. Someone was like, well, if you get to this deck, what deck? I only got the one, dog. I got the basic. I'm bad at Balatro. Why am I so bad?
I don't know. I don't think you're playing it right somehow. If I had to guess, I would say you are ignoring some sort of essential facet that you just don't like to engage with.
I used the jokers. That's it.
You buying those Arcana packs?
I'm buying the Arcanas.
You buying the Celestial packs?
The only ones I don't mess with right now are the Spectrals.
Oh, there's your problem.
They're risky business.
There's your problem.
I do sometimes, but not that much. Okay. Jeez, boy. And I guess the font could be a little smaller because the banner is technically behind the other one, but I'm not going to mess with that.
It's not a real banner.
Jacob, art isn't real. Nothing is real.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So you don't have to do anything like it was real.
We all die. Nothing matters.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So just make it the same size.
But it's fun to do the little details.
This is why you're burnt out.
No, I'm burnt out because I have to read very long emails by lawyers who need my responses immediately.
So true.
And then I also have to do accounting, which I don't love. I do not love it. You know what, before I start drawing, that's going to be a O, so we're going to skip it for right now. Although, let's put it there for a marker. Why not?
Accounting, I'd rather do a reading personally.
So true, bestie. I'm going to cheat it to be a little bit smaller, maybe? Well, oh, right. I never skewed the thing. So it would actually be a little bit lower.
If only you had skewed the rune. You wouldn't have to guess. That looks good. That does look good.
That looks so pretty.
We all die safely if we don't drive. The poster was trying to tell us.
Yeah, so true. You know, if this is going out a little bit, why can't the O go out a little bit? You know what I mean? You know what I mean?
I know what you mean.
So I'm gonna cheat that a little bit to the right.
You think I don't know what you mean, of all people? Oh, to be a cheese boy.
I'm a cheese boy. You ever think about that? You married a cheese boy?
I think about it every day. I wonder where it all went wrong. When you're sitting in there eating a full wheel of Parmesan cheese in one sitting. It costs like $80.
I don't even like Parmesan.
I know.
Much. I know.
It's the most messed up part.
I know, and I still do it. I'm still like, I could have a baby bell, but Parmesan.
I'd like to have an adult bell.
You can ring my bell. That looks good.
Looks pretty good.
Looks pretty good.
Now this one you skewed.
This one I did skew. Yes.
So you don't have to wonder. You don't have to question.
Yeah.
You know exactly where we're headed.
I want to go to the middle of this Y. Then I want to go out. And then I erase this. Dying.
Cheese boy.
Cheese boy.
All right, you want to know? Here's my thought.
Okay.
The triangle, the black triangle,
Here.
the other one in the middle.
Here. Yeah.
You do a couple little cheese holes coming off of that too.
Oh.
Into the white triangle. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I was thinking the other way.
Yeah.
Black. But yeah. Going
Why
down.
is orange different?
Not going up, just going down.
Oh, to fill in that space.
Yeah.
I see what you mean.
To fill in the space and make it look like a little bit of cheese.
Cheese holes, not really all that consistent. And what's cool about, or what's, what works about the cheese holes is that they're one consistent size, which our font is not.
Cheese boy!
Cheese boy!
We gotta start a cheese brand now.
Cheese boy?
We already got this. We're like halfway there. How much more else could there be to do? Get a cow? Perhaps a goat? Is this cheese boy?
Cheese boy!
So yeah, hopefully that helped you.
Did that help?
My wonderful towel, to learn how to organize the runes in such a way that you can keep track of the angle of your text
And then
when you hand letter it so that it looks natural on a banner. Our eggy boy and cheese boy. There are rumors. If you see an omelet boy running around, you'll know what happened.
Sorry, I'm just fixing my spacing. This isn't important to what we're learning today, but I'm having fun with it, so. That's cute.
That is cute. I like it.
Yeah. So then if you have little parts that hang off the bottom of your letters, this is unrelated to Cheese Boy.
It's all related to Cheese Boy, if you ask me.
Cheese Boy. I like this Cheese Boy that I've drawn. Not this guy, but the rest of it. If you have like a bit that hangs off, like a lowercase y or a lowercase g or a lowercase j, you can make a line like that.
To show like where the dangles will go to.
Yeah, to measure that out. You can always add that to the rune.
The lower line.
Yeah, the lower line. How much time we got? Okay. Does anyone else have any other questions while I do more examples? I'm just gonna start doing a more decorative font. I don't want the tilt. I want
disengage tilt mode. You want that chisel that don't tilt.
I love
that stable chisel.
The chisel.
Isn't it crazy that all Olive ever does is sleep in my lap?
Yes.
That's like literally the only thing she does.
And if she's not in your lap, which is rare.
She's in your lap.
She's in mine. Sometimes I like to have that little hollowing outline in there.
Oh yeah, that's a fun one. So you can kind of like, get your runes set up and then you can play around.
Yeah.
With like different ratios of thicknesses, different placements for your horizontal line.
See what's comfortable for you.
Yeah.
You basically just want to keep a theme going on these. So, you know, you, like we did with Eggy Boy.
You mean Cheese Boy?
Cheese Boy. Sorry. Mixed up the fandoms. So, you know, like we did with all of these letters, all of the, you know, we kept the top halves very small and the bottom halves bigger. So we could change the scale of these letters, but we still kept the ratios the same. The C doesn't really matter because it doesn't have any horizontals, but we got the vibe with the C without drawing the runes because these letters that I've drawn are very tall and skinny, and we kept it kind of stretched upwards as opposed to like a wide letter, which I could show. Maybe that's something I could do.
Ooh, a wide letter.
A wide letter. Because wide letters are fun. Imagine,
if you will, a wide letter.
A wide letter. Let's have like a wide, thick letter. Unless anyone has any questions, then, you know. Obviously, I will answer.
I'm not seeing any questions at this juncture.
Cool. Excellent.
So perfect time for a wide, thick letter, if you ask me.
So I'm making half a bagel.
Now it's a whole bagel. Pokeball!
Pokeball, it's open.
Pikachu!
Who's out? Pikachu.
Pikachu, come here. Get over here, Pikachu.
Pikachu, where are you?
It's a G.
We have a lot to do now.
Our first G.
Oh, G. Okay. There we go. Thick letter. G. Oh, that's a T.
GT.
GTA. But the little indent is big enough so that you can still see it.
Yeah.
Do you want me to close the blinds, the curtains, the shades?
It's okay right now.
Okay.
But it won't be for long.
You do have a little cat fur at the tip of your nose.
Thank you.
You're welcome. It won't be for long. Well, we only got 15 minutes left, so. Let me do like an A, because A's are weird. We'll keep in this thicker font. I'm not going to measure, I'm just going to eyeball. I'm going to, of course, stay with my rune, but...
But you're going so wide. Are you crazy?
Yeah, man. I'm wild like this. So I want to keep this, the inside of the A, consistent with the outside of the A. So I'm just going to copy that shape. Okay.
This looks like the A24A.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
It's got like one thick side.
Yeah. She purring? She just woke up.
Yeah, she's purring.
These cats are ridiculous.
She goes to sleep and then she wakes up and she's like immediately happy.
Couldn't be me.
Could you imagine?
No, I want that middle bar. I want the tip here to line up with that vertical bar we drew earlier. I'm just going across because then I'll erase. It's just whoop, 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 whoop. I hope that this is helpful or people are enjoying it.
Well, Negapol said, I have relatively recently been trying hand lettering for some stickers and I lament not having the rune. Well, now you got the rune.
Now you got the rune. You know, this A...
It ain't right.
It ain't right. It needs to be thicker.
It's got to be thicker. It's not as thick as the G.
Yeah, so let's measure out the G. And we'll do what we did before, right? This is how I measure things out in Photoshop. Oh, it was so off.
It looks like you're about to write game.
Game.
Like it is in Smash Bros. Yeah.
Yeah, you're right.
Game.
Game. Mario wins. Okay. Let's flip this horizontally.
You've made the mythical butthole. It will give you the information you need.
Yep. Hoo boy. Okay. It's gonna be a weird looking one, but let's look at it.
You can cheat the hole.
Or do we need the hole?
So you're thinking of making the stylistic choice to remove the hole entirely.
I feel like it needs it.
Yeah, just cheat it. That's what I say.
Where is this? Where does that land us? About there?
What have you done?
What have you done? What did I do? Oh. I hit 0. Your keyboard's very tiny.
Yeah, it's easier to play Final Fantasy 14 on. Because my F keys line up with my number keys.
Oh, yeah, you're right, huh?
Oh, she's getting up.
Are you getting up?
You gonna go somewhere?
No. Nope. She sat back down.
She thought about it.
Okay.
Negapol said I'll have to rewatch this stream because my pesky job doesn't let me actively watch streams.
Dang.
That's honestly, I think that should be considered workplace abuse.
Yeah.
You should be able to watch as many streams as you need to.
I agree. Oops. It doesn't feel right.
What if the hole is just a circle?
Doesn't really go with...
Could be cute.
Let's try it.
It is kind of cute.
It's kind of cute.
It's kind of cute, actually.
It's not really reading, though. Maybe a little bit bigger.
It's kind of cute.
You know, it's kind of cute because there's like a symmetry with this.
Yeah.
You know, it looks like looks a little Pac-Man-esque.
Yeah, it's cute.
That is cute. That was a good idea.
Thank you. I didn't think it was going to be.
What?
I just said it. I didn't know if it was actually going to be good. But we never would have known if we didn't try.
Yeah. I like it. It's cute.
Should we start wrapping up? You got like anything else you wanted to talk about?
That's basically it. I didn't get to talk about like really like ornate fonts, but you know, that's going to be like a push and a pull basically if we wanted to do like what's a fancy letter in script? Let's do an ampersand.
Ampersand.
kind of like... Allow me to just undo everything I've been doing. That looks a little better.
That's an ampersand.
That's an ampersand. So let's make it a little ornate.
Chris Scalzo asked if there's any apps you recommend for adding your generated characters from Photoshop/Illustrator to get an OTF or TTF.
Good question.
In the past, I've used IcoMoon to add some of my letters to generate the font.
So when I made the font for the Draw Something Dumb book, I used a website that had me download a template, and then the template had sort of like a rune like this. It was mostly just like a box. And it you upload that image to their website, and then they generate it into a font for you, and then you test it out. It's not the best because you can't like edit on the fly. That's the only one that I've used so far. I did like it for something that was quick and free. Let me look up what it was.
She's Googling.
I am, I'm sorry.
She's Googling on company time.
Oh, I think it was Calligrapher. CALLIGRAPHR.com.
Calligrapher sans the E.
Yes. Sans E. So that will have you download their form thing, and then you upload it to them. And I did like 3 passes at my own handwriting, just because some letters when they were smaller were less clear than others. We were doing that book on a tight schedule, so I was trying to rush it, and then I wound up having to make that font like a million times. So
Goodbye, Olive.
I wound up doing like a bunch of uploads, but that's what I used. I liked it. Any other questions before we go? I'm just playing around now. Oh, you're closing the blinds.
Oh, I'm free.
Wow. Digging out these little wells is good because it helps with like weight. So if you have like a really thick section, you can dig out a well and then it feels less thick because there's less matter there, as it were.
Makes sense.
Yeah. I guess that's it.
Yeah.
Are we ending
I
here?
feel like there's lots of cool info in there.
I hope
lots
this was
of practical
helpful.
experience
Yeah.
on the show.
Yeah.
Rachel Wallig said, thanks. It's been cool to see how your digital process is different from how I do this with calligraphy tools.
Yeah, doing it with calligraphy tools, I feel like there's less you have control of, so there's more. I mean, you still like can measure things out and you can use your like calligraphy tools for that, but it you can be a lot more precise digitally. Both of them, of course, very valid. The stuff that we're doing on digital is trying to mimic calligraphy because we don't have that freedom that
This is what it
calligraphers
takes
have.
for us to mimic a fraction of your power, et cetera,
Exactly.
et cetera.
So yeah, I really hope that this was helpful. Thanks for being a patron at the Draw class. Thanks for attending the Draw class. It's always a little hard to talk to what you feel like is no one. So we always appreciate when people are in the chat and participating and asking questions and things like that.
Yeah, it's fun.
Yeah, it is fun. So thanks so much for being here. I guess that's it for us today.
That's it. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks.
We'll see you next time.
Goodbye.
Bye.